I love your talk, by the way. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to WoW Live this week. We have a wonderful guest today, Evelyne Mercure from the University of Goldsmith University, part of University of London. And she is an expert in particular in the field of language. So today we're going to try to focus a little bit on that topic, and thank you to the WoW team at the University of Essex that provide this platform to talk about these things and to really find the amazement and the awe in things that maybe seem trivial or mundane, but are actually really, really important. So Evelyne, would you like to thank you very much for coming and for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
We're really looking forward. So many questions came in for you today. So we're really looking forward to hear what you can tell us. Would you like to start by telling us why neuroscience, why language? Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so language was something I was interested in from very early on. My background is not psychology, like a lot of neuroscientists. So my background is speech and language therapy. So I was studying to become a speech therapist. But during the summers, I was earning a bit of money to pay for my studies while working in a neuroscience lab. And that's when I discovered that this is what I really wanted to do, studying the brain, but always in the context of language. So I always went back to language. And when I had my own children, I learned about language development in theory, but having my own daughters, I have 3 of them, made me realize that this development is absolutely incredible. Because when you learn about it in books, you don't realize that a month difference is actually just 4 weeks. So you don't realize how quickly they learn, how much happens almost overnight in terms of language development. So that just made me even more interested in the very early phases of language development.
Did you find that knowing a lot about how language develops gave you a different access to your children as compared to maybe somebody that wouldn't know so much? Did you think it gave you some extra insight?
I hope so. So I was constantly watching them and analyzing what they were saying, what they appeared to be understanding, because I found that interesting as a mom, but also as a scientist. I was also very, very aware that how much our input is important. And that can sometimes also feel a bit, I think I also felt the pressure because I knew that how much the language that is provided by the mom and the parents it's really the learning fuel of language development. And it's also quite normal to want to switch off once in a while to start daydreaming. So it was this balancing act of providing enough, but also taking care of making sure that I was also surviving as a person.
Yes, and that a balancing act that sometimes it can be quite tough with children, with one, let alone with 3. So yeah, it's exciting, and yeah, as you say, like knowledge gives us a sort of responsibility as well, a sense of responsibility that we have to make the most of those times where children learn so much, and at the same time, it's quite amazing, right? How, in a way, parents tend to do the right thing at the right time without even noticing that they're doing it. Did you find it sometimes that, I don't know, you were speaking in baby language and then you go like, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm raising my pitch and attracting and sustaining attention in a more effective way.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's parental instinct. A lot of it does not need to be taught. A lot of it comes naturally to us. But there are also aspects of it that we benefit from a bit of information, because some of it is not always super obvious.
Yeah. Yes. So because we have so many questions today, maybe I can just go down all the list of questions that we got, and this will give us make sure that we provide the information that you listener really need and really are looking for. So I'm going to try and go in chronological order, starting with a question referring to very small babies and then growing up. Or even I think we have from the womb. Is it true that my baby hears me from the womb?
Yep, that's definitely true. So, well, it depends how old the fetus is. It's roughly in the last trimester of pregnancy that the hearing system switches on in the fetus, and then the baby can start hearing. So they hear mostly what comes from within the mom's body, so the mom's heartbeat and blood flow, and also the mom's voice and the mom's language. And we know that's true because not only they can hear it, but they can learn from it. And a few hours after birth, a baby will prefer to listen to their mom's voice as opposed to the voice of another woman. And they also prefer to listen to the language that mom was speaking as opposed to another language. So that means that they've already learned to recognize different voice tones. So the mom's voice quality versus the quality of another person, but also the specific sound and rhythm patterns that are part of the language that mom is speaking.
Wow, this is really amazing. So, and this is specific to the mother language, right? It's the voice from the mother that the child hears from the womb. They probably hear other voices. I'm thinking, for example, languages. It's the mother tongue that they prefer. Let's imagine an Italian mom in London. Would they still prefer Italian if the mother speaks Italian most of the time?
Yes, I would think so. So it's mostly the language that mom is speaking. So if an Italian mom is working in English, speaking English, it is likely that the baby would probably prefer both Italian and English compared to a language they have not heard before.
But basically they're bilingual in the womb already.
I'm saying it is likely. It's not something that has been tested, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. We have another question. Yeah, so we're recommended to talk to babies a lot, but what do they really understand? So I think lots of comments or a lot of moms were commenting on the fact that I know I'm supposed to talk to my child, but it feels so strange. So what can we tell them? What is it that a child picks up from the interaction, the verbal interaction with us?
I'd love to be in their head and hear it as they hear it. But I think it is very likely that they hear very different things as they get older. So younger babies, for example, they're very likely to hear a series of sounds and to focus a lot on the rhythm of language. And at that age, it's very unlikely that they can associate any series of sounds with any object, for example. But they still need that input because at that stage, they don't. So I'm talking mostly about babies under 6 months here. So they don't understand any of it, but they don't even understand the purpose of these sounds that people are making. They don't really know why people go around and make sounds with their mouth. But they're still learning these sounds. So they're learning really specific things about these sounds, which ones are around me, to group them in groups of sound that fit together. They're learning the sounds that are likely to follow each other. They don't yet know what they'll do with that information, but they're absorbing it at that age. And then after that, probably around 7 months, they start associating a certain series of sounds, so mommy, with a certain someone that they know well. And from then on, they start associating words with objects. And that's a time where it's very important for moms to not just speak about anything, but speak about what baby's paying attention to. So if baby's looking at the ducks, then talking about the ducks will reinforce this association between the duck pattern and the little fluffy animal. But if there are ducks in the background and the baby is looking at the cars, then it is a lot more productive for mom to be speaking about the cars. So it is this balance of really finding what baby's interested in the moment and talking about that specifically.
Yeah, this is something we're really keen about at BabyBrains, that we try to really stress a lot, the importance of taking in the cues from your child in order to provide the information that that little brain is craving for now, so that that information gets slotted in the most efficient and effective way. So it's interesting to see that even in something that might seem simple, but actually is very complex, like, you know, describing the ducks in front of you when you go to the park, is actually, it's not about the number of words that you say in a day. It's not about the number of words your child manages to produce, but it's really the work as a parent that we can do is really to fine-tune that attention and to make sure that we follow the cues and that we provide the information that the child is looking for at that time.
Exactly. So it's about the whole communicative package. So especially in a baby that is maybe after 7 months of age. So it's this communication package of looking at each other, looking at an object together, and then providing some language information about that thing we're looking at together.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, spending time with your child becomes really interesting, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's about trying to see the world through their eyes, seeing what they're seeing, what they're looking at, what interests them, and then provide the language tools to describe this.
Yes. Yeah, we like to say at BabyBrains that language is a tool for thought, and it really begins in very early on with very simple things. If I kind of manage to slot in that moment where I provide the word you're looking for, then it's understanding that the language is there for you to express yourself and for other people to express themselves and to use it for thinking and for communicating is really, yeah, it's really paving the way towards that. It's not just learning so and so many words.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
That's wonderful. I'm seeing we've got a lot of, oh yeah, this one is a good one, kind of related to what we were saying. Is it a good idea to correct children when they mispronounce? So we're talking about slightly older children here. Or is it better to repeat the word correctly in a new sentence without pointing out the mistakes? For instance, want nana, and then I would reply, sure, you can have your banana.
Yeah, I would say definitely the second option is more productive. So language is a tool for communication. So we're also in the process trying to teach some language skills. But the main thing about it, the main purpose of the exchange must still be communication. So if the baby or the toddler is requesting a banana, you're holding it saying, you know, it's not nana, it's banana, and repeat after me. So this is probably not very pleasant for the child, and it removes a bit of the the communicative pleasure of the interaction. So if the child is requesting nana, and we say, oh yes, here's the banana, and then you can also put the emphasis on the syllable that was missing so that it becomes more salient for the child without having, I don't like this method of holding back until you say it properly, because it should be about the pleasure of interacting.
You risk to discourage the child, and then next time instead of asking for using any word, you might just revert back to pointing so that he doesn't get that, or maybe just grab the banana, like while we really want to encourage the use of words, and so we need to kind of stay positive when that happens.
Yes, definitely.
I think we had a similar question about bilingualism. And it's quite similar. It's basically some children don't like to answer, for example, bilingual situation, and the children refuse to speak the language of one of the parents. How can we encourage them to actually speak the language? Is it a good idea to kind of say, I'm not going to answer to you until you ask me in French or whatever other language it is?
Yes, I've seen that in families where some parents pretend they don't understand the other language, and kids pick up on this so young. Like they know, like from infancy, they know what language their parents understand and don't understand. So that is quite likely to create frustration if a parent is pretending not to understand something, and not very likely to encourage the child to use the language, the target language. I think it's gentle encouragement, telling them they're doing well. Also, another good trick is contact with true monolinguals. So if grandma, for example, really does not understand English, then that's a very good partner where the child will have to make the effort. Like cousins abroad, if you can have like face-to-face FaceTime sessions or Zoom sessions with them, where if these cousins are really not fluent in English, like the majority language that your child is very comfortable in, I think this is a good trick to encourage them. Show them what they know, actually, because very often these kids are a lot more fluent than they realize.
Yeah.
And they will go for the easy option. They know that mom understands English. English words come quicker to mind. They will therefore use English. It's a very natural thing to do.
Yeah, because there is an urgency in communication, right? I want you to know what I'm thinking as fast as possible. And I'm not kind of there to show off my languages. I'm just using them. And
like I come back from nursery and they're excited about something that happened at nursery. They want to tell you about this. They don't really want to make the effort of telling you in another language. Like we're the same. If you have a second or third language that you're a bit rusty in, if you're in front of someone that speaks a language you're more comfortable in, you'll automatically go for that one.
Yeah. The brain likes to go for the shortcuts, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Similar to this one, what do you think about the one parent, one language guideline? So we read in a lot of bilingual, raising bilingual children advice that one parent has to stick to one language, otherwise the child gets confused.
Yes, this is what I was learning in speech and language therapy school. And having raised bilingual kids, having seen a lot of bilingual families, and having seen a lot of data, also like scientific data, I can say that this is not how people raise bilingual kids in general. There are a lot of things that don't make that much sense with that rule, that if you really apply it rigidly, it just creates strange situation. Like, for example, if you stick to one parent, one language rule. And for example, mom speaks language A, dad speaks language B. How does mom and dad interact together? Are they really having this weird conversation where they're not even speaking the same language together? And also, I think, but in terms of bilingualism, we also teach, I would say, the pragmatics of bilingualism. So what language is appropriate to use in different situations. And in our house, for example, we always speak French. My husband speaks French. The kids are fluent in French. We always speak French unless there's an English speaker in the house. And then I consider it more polite to use English in that situation. So I will encourage the kids to speak English by speaking English myself. So that would be a violation of the rule, but I feel like that I'm teaching them what I consider the good manners of bilingualism in that way.
Yes. Oh, the good manners of bilingualism. I love that. Yes. Talking about speech and language therapist, I was actually quite surprised. We received this question from Italy. So, and it's not the first time, like it's at least the second or the third person that is reporting this. So the language therapist advice currently in Italy is that, so the situation would be that a child that does not have Italian as a first language goes to the speech and language therapist, and so parents are not Italian, and they get recommended to use Italian, to speak Italian at home. So if we were in the UK, it would be speak English, even if your first language is another one, just speak English at home. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I'm really surprised by this one, to be honest. When I studied speech and language therapy in Montreal, where bilingualism is really, it's part of the environment. Yeah. And it is something that would have been advised in some specific cases where the child is really falling behind with language, like a school-age child, not a toddler. For example, a school-age child is really falling behind in terms of language development, struggling at school for this reason. And then with discussion with the family, there could be an advice made to simplify the language environment and focus on the language of instruction, for example. But I think that is always in discussion with the family, because one thing is that language development tends to be predicted by the amount of time a child interacts with a native speaker. So, for example, I'm quite fluent in English, but I'm not a native speaker of English. And for that reason, it is more productive for me to speak French with my children. Even if they go to school in English, it is more productive. I'm a better teacher of French than I'm a teacher of English. And then also different families will have very different levels of fluency in the language of instruction. So it's really not always advisable to simplify language exposure. And also bilingualism is a richness on its own as well. And if a child is lucky enough to be born in a bilingual environment, then unless there's a very big problem that is causing some knockdown effect on schooling, then it shouldn't be taken away from the child.
Yeah, it sounds like there is this terror of falling behind, right? And yeah, of course, for a child, it's important to be able to access the kind of instruction and information that he gets. And of course, it's important to nurture that. But I don't think it would be a good description of reality to say that a child is falling behind when maybe he's moved from a new country, learning a whole new culture, learning a whole new language is actually learning a lot more than the child that maybe is quicker in maths, because there is nothing else that's kind of big, that's so new that it's getting learned. So maybe it's about as well educating the teachers and the parents about the asset that it is to have two languages, to know two languages. Because and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. Speaking two languages is not just amazing because it gives you access to cultures and to types of way of speaking. It really has a lot of other effects on the brain, right?
Yes. So yeah, it gives access to the culture back home. It also makes you more flexible in how you think about language, which can give you an advantage in terms of learning to read and write, for example. So when I referred to children who were falling behind the school curriculum as a result of language delay, I was more thinking of perhaps children that also have autism, a severe language disorder. So in the context of other special needs.
Yeah.
In a child that is developing language well in a language, I can't see any reason not to bring in any other languages in the background. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, yes, we had a question that we kind of summarized. Now, which language should I speak to my baby? I want her to grow up bilingual, but I don't want her to be behind when she goes to school. And you just said, I'm a better teacher of my native tongue than of another one. And so you would still recommend parents to speak their mother tongue in a kind of average normal situation.
Yes, I would say in general, the mother tongue, or maybe that's quite vague, but I would say a language that you like, a language that you feel comfortable speaking to your baby in. It's quite strange not to speak to your kids in the language that is closest to your heart. It feels unnatural. It breaks the communication a little bit, even if you're fluent in it. I think we have a quite of intuitive idea of what language we do want to use, and I think that's the one we should be using.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. We have a question coming in. What's the average age when we can talk of language delay?
That's a good one. So I would not go. Language delay is something that is it should be pointed at by a professional. So you should start to seek advice. Perhaps if you have a 2-year-old that is not using very many words, it's always good to check, see if the hearing is working properly, see if all the tools are there for learning language. And it's a game of observation at that age. So a lot of kids will have a slow start, and it's often about personality. So some kids like to observe until they can produce it perfectly. Other kids will like to make mistakes along the way. There's a lot of personality involved in there. So with toddlers, it's very much a wait and observe game. But if you're worried, then it's a good idea to seek advice from the health visitor, the GP, because they could say it might be good to have a hearing test done. They could also give you some information about language stimulation that can really change the picture quite quickly. So it's a complex question, but it depends on each child, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And I love the way you kind of direct the attention to the observation of the actual child you have in front of you. And then, according to different circumstances, many things can be at stake. Probably even when we go to talk to the GP about it, and possibly to some specialists. I guess it's very important to keep it playful, to don't get stressed about it, right? Because when you talk about language and say it needs to be close to your heart, like emotion play a big role, right? In the way we use language. So, and anxiety is probably not one that really helps.
Yeah, definitely. And then sometimes a lot of babies or toddlers will just start all of a sudden. They were really learning it. They were reluctant to use it for some reason. And then once they manage to get the words out, then they just come pouring. My third daughter was a bit like that. I knew she had it all in. And then the only word she was saying was mommy and zebra for some reason.
And that combination. What did Daddy say about that, though?
And all of a sudden, it just happened. She found I think she found a way of finding the words that were stored there, and they just came out all of a sudden. It's about observing also the communication is telling us a lot. If a child is very interested in communication, very interested in human interaction, then usually there's a lot less to worry about.
Yeah. So Claudia is saying thank you very much for answering her question. And on this beautiful image of mommy and zebra, we'll have to say goodbye. Thank you so much, Evelyne, for coming today and for sharing some of your knowledge with us. We hope to have you back soon so that you can again help us be in awe about the children developing with us in the home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evelyne. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.